And then later on, we get things, more modern things like Impulse Tracker, which supported 64 channels, virtual channels where you could actually cram multiple overlapping notes into a single channel, all just limited by how powerful your CPU was. And so with the PC came PC scene music. And also, you saw some games actually start to use the tracker format for the first time. And I'm going to play you some PC examples. I had to listen to a wave, but this would be a Purple Motion track from 1993. S3M, this would be, I think, 14 channels. You sort of just notice the increased density of sounds, increased density of amounts of sample data. And now I'll play a track from the 1994 video game from Origin, Crusader No Regret, which I did some of the soundtrack for. And this was one of the first games that supported 8-channel mods. The producer at the time was a big metal fan, and he insisted that every song have deaf guitars in it. It made me very sad. But, you know, sound quality-wise, you know, it's much improved over the ad-lib of its day. Skip ahead. Here's a S3M by Basshead from '95, featuring even more sort of modern sound. And then I'll do another one of my tracks. This is actually a 21-channel IT. We're still only getting one side? All right, well. Oh, well. Just crank it up then. And pan it mono. So as you can kind of hear, things started to get a whole lot more realistic really fast. There are other games that used mods as well. Star Control 2 back in '92. Malcolm of KLF did a whole bunch of mods for that. Those were 4-channel, I believe, or were they 6-channel? 4. Unreal Tournament used mods, quite a few from different people. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. The CD-ROM appeared. People decided, oh, we can just stream Redbook. That'll do it. This thing named DirectX came along. Oh, we can mix in software. You don't have to deal with sound card, from sound card APIs. And then this little format called the MP3, which unfortunately negated a lot of the size advantage of the track files. You know, a 500K mod versus an average minute per meg MP3 all of a sudden isn't so impressive. So here we are 15 years later. This would be Cubase SX. People enter, as you can see down here, this is a piano roll style interface, which is what most modern music composition programs use. You can actually manipulate samples directly, complicated mixing doodads, a professional like sort of jog shuttle. And you can ask yourself, well, why do people still would ever want to care about tracking? Well, as it turns out, there are some interesting things you can do in a tracker that you can't do in a program like this. And sort of the whole point of this talk is I'm going to show you a little bit in sort of a live demonstration. Tracker files do have advantages. They're not just for the demo scene. They're tiny files. They play samples. They can sound realistic. They're multi-channel. And basically, you enter data in sort of a step-sequenced form, where basically every row is sort of a slice of time, and you enter notes, and they sort of play sequentially. And they're still being used to this day on a lot of systems, such as like the Game Boy Advance, where you have limited hardware, and it's just sort of a perfect format to take advantage of. There's also sort of tracking's mutant little children. Modplug, Renoise, I think Andy showed Renoise screenshot in his presentation. Revisit, which is basically Impulse Tracker as a virtual instrument you can sort of drop into Cubase, as weird as that sounds. And then my favorite, which is Buzz, which is what I'm actually going to sort of show you. Buzz is a weird, weird beast. It sort of combines tracker-style composition methods with hierarchical effects, VSTs, 24-bit audio, and sort of a real professional sort of sounding package, or at least as, you know, as professional as someone who's not a major software corporation is going to get. And so oops, I'm now going to attempt in mono, I guess, from the left side, load Buzz, and do some tracking. Let's see if this works. Oh, actually. Okay. What I'm going to do is start with a very simple example. Which should look very familiar. This is a one-channel tracker, exactly the same as trackers back in the day. It has rows, columns, notes go on the left, wave file numbers, effects, all the old school goodness. And it can also be multi-channel. You just add channels. It has samples. Let's see if I play some samples. Some sort of bass. This is a very sort of simple set. And so you just enter notes. So I'll say start with a kick drum. Notes are entered downwards, which may seem weird at first until you realize that everything sort of plays downward. So what you're seeing is this sort of line. As the line's tracking, that's the rows it's sort of scanning, and it's playing whatever note is on this line. So this is basically saying every 4 ticks, play a bass kick on track 0. So this is kind of boring. I'll add a clap. Simple enough. I'll add a hi-hat. So pretty cool, not exactly rocket science. But what we can also do is sort of add, for example, this channel is volume. We can say change the volume of the hi-hat. Instead of having this monotone hi-hat, we can change the volume dynamically. As you can now hear, it sort of modulates. You've got to open a hi-hat, add a little open a hi-hat. This is essentially how you would track back in the day. It's exactly like this if you're using Pro Tracker, Impulse Tracker, Scream Tracker, Octamed, or anything back in the day. Unfortunately, that's pretty much all you could do. And in the demo scene, you would basically make, basically a very long version of this with lots of samples and however many tracks you could do, and that would be it. But Buzz is a little more interesting because, as you'll see when I go to this screen, here's my tracker. And it's sort of just one instance of multiple things I can have going on. This box right here in the center represents the master output. So when I sort of connect the tracker to it, this indicates that the signal flows from this M track, which is a tracker called Matilda tracker, to the master. And then I have in my order list, this is my sort of channel, the channel that's sort of assigned to M track. So as it sort of plays, this scan line sort of, I'll turn the looping off for a second and just make some more. This is my song, and as it's going down, it's basically just playing this pattern. This 0, 0 that you see is basically pattern 0 of M track. And so it's just playing it over and over again. Let's say you wanted to have another pattern, sort of a breakdown of some sort. You would just simply go and stick it here. When it gets to the 1, something different will happen. But here's the cool thing. You can go and make another tracker. Put it over here, connect it to the output. Here's my new tracker. Looks exactly the same. I can give it some channels. I can find a bass line. Put some basses. add my bass line. So what you essentially have is two trackers playing at the same time with perfect MIDI synchronization, tick accurate. You can mute one. You can say just delete the patterns if you want to have like a little breakdown, bring the drums back, etc., etc. In the olden days, you'd have to actually put all the instruments for all the tracks go into one tracker, so it uses channels and channels and channels of stuff. Another cool little thing you can do in Buzz is add effects. This pink box that I have here is an effect. Anything that's blue generates audio, and anything that's pink essentially processes audio. So what I have here is a simple sort of echo sort of delay unit. I'm going to go set some parameters, and I'm going to basically, this is my bass line. This is my drums. I'm going to go and stick the delay in the middle of the bass. What's that? Oh, because this is I'm using the wrong here. I'll do it the right way. I was using the mono delay instead of the stereo delay. And now we'll have go. Change some parameters. So what you essentially have here is a tracker that's being routed through effects. These effects right now that I'm using are all sort of built-in effects to Buzz. Buzz has a large library, large community which develops to the Buzz API and has millions and millions of effects that you can sort of just place. I mean, you can sort of see there's choruses, delays, mods, phasers, pitch shifters, all sorts of goodies. But if you don't like the Buzz stuff, you can use something more professional. You can use what's called a VST. VST is essentially a plugin API that's used by sort of modern audio plugins in sort of the high-dollar, real sort of music industry to do effects and virtual instruments and things like that. So I can take a tracker, connect it to, say, something like this, which is like a 4-band filter bank. Maybe automate it. So as you can see, stuff starts to get kind of pro. Let me load something a little more sophisticated. Oh wait, it's going to get way worse than this. So here's a song. This is, as you can see, this is essentially 8 tracks, and it's pretty long. Since everything scrolls down, you can see it kind of goes down. There's pages and pages and pages and pages of stuff. But once everything's kind of rolling, each one of these blue things, again, is a tracker or some sort of sound generator. All these pink things are effects. You can get some pretty, sophisticated results. And like I said, in the traditional sequencer, modifying a song can be a real pain in the ass. But here, let's say I wanted to, just do large-scale cut and paste operations. I can just go and grab stuff and paste it around, and I actually want it instead of like this, whatever this is, I want it to be something different. I can use some different pattern. So it's something different. So the basic gist here is that you can start to create stuff that sounds pretty damn professional, and you can create it in an interface which is extremely fast. Another example. Ooh, what I wanted. So here's another example. You can also do crazy things like this. As you see kind of what's going on here, there's effects which are going